Yeah. Rap Circle is finally here. I know everybody been waiting for it, right?
Well, hey, I'm Pops, and this is another movie review. Samaritan is on Amazon Prime Video. So you can check out Amazon Prime. It has Samaritan on there for you. Sylvester Stallone stars in this comic book adaptation. It is not Samaritan from Astro City, which is what I was hoping was the case. It is a different comic book, a more obscure one that I am not very familiar with, and not one that I'm really going to be seeking out. It's called Mythos Comics. It's a graphic novel from 2014. So basically, the story is, and spoiler alerts, if you do not want the movie spoiled, you've been warned again. I'm doing spoilers, folks, right from the get-go. It's all free range. You've been warned. So Stallone is stars in this role. Basically, it's about twin brothers. They're freaks. They're called freaks. You have this little sort of like narrative exposition that opens the film with all this backstory about them, their parents being killed, house being burnt down. The boys basically go their separate ways. Samaritan versus Nemesis. Nemesis creates this hammer of hate, basically, that can destroy Samaritan in a battle. That's how it's all been set up. And then, of course, all of that leads to the death, and they both disappear. We don't know where they are, right? There's this huge battle, and we don't know where they are. So we fast forward to today, and there's like a quick little montage of some different elements to the backstory, because the film basically centers around Sylvester Stallone's character named Joe and this little boy named Sam. And Sam is an extremely poor family, just he and his mom. The kid is obsessed with Samaritan, and Samaritan actually still possibly being out there. And Sam is, kind of caught up in this seedy little impoverished little area that he lives in. There's like a punk kid, basically like, come with me, we'll steal some wire out of a building. He gets caught up with some other kids and ends up in this thing where, oh, hey, and you need $1, I'll give you some money. And they basically turn on him. Reza is the guy's the gang banger's name, and Cyrus is the guy that's running this group, right? And Cyrus likes him because he doesn't turn on him, right? Cyrus is obsessed with Nemesis. It always talks about how he was like representing the little guy. He was always punching up, right? He was giving those a beating who needed a beating, right? So anyway, the mom catches on to some of this because they've been locked out of their apartment. Sam suddenly has money that can save the day and all of that, right? And Cyrus has his like different goons. I didn't know, by the way. I wouldn't have known this if I didn't use subtitles. One of the dudes' name is Tuna. Like, cool henchman name, by the way. Too bad that Tuna doesn't really have any real significance to the story, by the way. Anyway, so Reza's chasing him. There's this big fight, whatever nonsense, and Sam runs in front of a bus. And Stallone, Joe stops this bus in time. And later, he saves Sam when Reza's beating him up or whatever, right? And they find the knife, and the knife is bent. So he's convinced now that Joe is Samaritan, right? He spies on him from his house, kind of like Rear Window style with some binoculars, sees how he's all scarred up from like a burn. And Cyrus, in the meantime, they're working through their little storyline. They're basically wanting to be sort of like opportunist terrorists. They're going to like create like blackouts. They're going to do these different things that they have these like blackout bombs that create like little mini EMP. It wipes out electronics. And he quote says, "I'm going to finish what Nemesis started." Right. And they're kind of breaking into this evidence room. He's going to find this hammer. He slams the hammer down, and you see Joe flinched, right? So there's clearly some sort of connection there. We don't really know what it is. The filmmaking in all of this is very, very slow and tedious. It's very much like city drama and city tension. It's not like action sequences or big fight scenes or anything like that. It just kind of keeps going and going and going. You have like this backstory about this writer who writes about Samaritan, and Sam wants to see him and stuff. And I gotta be honest, you don't really care about all that. Sam ultimately sneaks in the dude's house and steals this scrapbook that Joe has about Samaritan. And Joe tries to play it off like, no, man, I'm just a fan like you. And when that happens, Reza races and hits him, like slams him with the car. Should have killed him, right? Of course, Joe does like the creepy bones cracking back into place because he survived. He's obviously some superhuman abilities of some kind, right? And Sam is like, we find out he's really obsessed with Samaritan because Samaritan had helped his dad when dad was caught up into some crime and kind of steered him the right way, right? But the problem is you feel like at this point, I took notes in real time because I was like, well, something doesn't add up with Joe. So if Joe is Samaritan, he faked his death. Is Nemesis still out there or not? Why is he letting things get so bad? Did he have to kill his brother and he's guilty? He doesn't think the world will understand? Or is Joe actually Nemesis? Did he kill Samaritan? He's riddled with guilt. Like, we don't know. But this is like all these different possibilities of how this all plays out. And I got to be honest, I was kind of like very ho-hum about this. Like, I just wasn't really, not that I didn't care. It just was like, it's just kind of a tedious film. Didn't really get too engaged with it. Stallone is fine, but there's not like this real accessible way to connect with his character, right? So he kind of, pals around with Sam a little bit. Sam's following him, and they go to a pawn shop, and they start asking all these little questions like, you are superhuman though. Like, he eats ice cream so he can cool down fast enough when he's hurt. He can jump cars. He can do these different things. But Joe's advice is always sort of very pessimistic and nihilistic. Like, it doesn't reek of this hero or this icon that you should want to look up to. The story is also like very cheaply moved along by watching the newscast. There's always all updates about how bad things are. Unemployment is up. Then you have later when we're having looters and vandals. So the creators cheat and use the newscast as a way to kind of keep the story moving. We get told things instead of shown things because we're shown things, so we don't need both at times. So anyway, there's a lot of like back and forth for Sam. Like, he doesn't know what to do. He feels like a coward. He doesn't know how to fight. And Joe's like giving him advice, like, well, you sucker punch and you run away, man. You don't need to get into all this stuff. You're gonna get hurt. So anyway, long story short, Joe is kind of going through some different things. He's having memories. He has nightmares, some different stuff like that. And then ultimately, Cyrus picks up a little bit of this and kidnaps Cyrus. And they know that Joe survived this crazy crash, right? So anyway, long story short, the gang attacks Sam. Sam ends up in the hospital. Joe's feeling guilty. The mom's mad, right? And they start following Joe because they're after him, right? And now we suddenly break all the rules. This is where the film lost me because we break the rules. Like, so he's bulletproof. I guess there's stuff they shoot at him or whatever. He he get hit by a car? I think there's a knife involved at one point. Like, I'm not quite sure I understood like what is the rules and how he's actually vulnerable or not vulnerable. Like, if he can jump, I don't know. It's just all so strange. Anyway, all of that's caught on cell footage, so it's leaked that there's someone out there, and Sam has overheard parts of what Cyrus's plan is, the scheme to shut this grid down, right? And he like wears the Nemesis mask. He's full on into this obsessing with this thing and this hammer, right? So anyway, so there's the whole cat and mouse thing of them getting Joe and getting Sam and who's where and who's there. And long story short is it comes down to this big scene where Joe is taking this trash truck, fills it with all this stuff, and starts racing this trash truck towards the thugs. There's gunfire, and he gets out, he starts beating up all these men, and Cyrus comes down and starts fighting and basically just pummeling him, right? Hammer to the face, whatever. Long story short, it comes to this climax and says, you keep calling me the good guy, right? Who says I'm the good guy? He's Nemesis, right? He's the bad guy. Spoiler alert, I guess. I mean, all the advice and everything was always very much from the point of view of villain. So I'm not quite sure it was as much of a gotcha moment as the original creator wanted. So anyway, there's an explosion because you put all that stuff in the back of the trash truck. And by the way, that should have killed Sam, but it doesn't kill Sam. And you get a little bit of the flashback with the Samaritan death. Nemesis actually killing Samaritan or letting him fall to his death, whatever. And long story short, there's all this stuff about the fighting, whatever. And Joe, Nemesis, has the actual sledgehammer. So there's a cool scene where he actually knocks all these beams down. It kind of falls down. That's kind of cool. The city goes dark, and you see Cyrus put this mask on, like a scene out of Bane from Dark Knight Rises. It was all just very generic. It's like, and it's like the weak heart thing. Joe's got like the weak heart. It's like, I don't, it's just a trap. It's just a bad plan. It's just this, it's just that. It doesn't really matter. Right. We have to remember that Joe needs water or cool down to heal and all of that. So he does come out on top, and it's like, well, you can change. He says, no, there's good and bad in everybody's heart. It's up to you to make the right choice. And then Joe just disappears. And it's like, this movie just danced around doing anything of any significance. Like, Sam's really not any different. He just now tells everybody that Samaritan's alive, but it's really Nemesis who did something decent. I mean, all these people are dead, so I'm not sure it's really that good. And the world's not a better place. Like, the town is completely in ruin. That's terrible. I don't think we have any good hint that the Joe character, Nemesis character, is going to do good or be good going forward, really. I think it's like is it like a one-off? I'm not quite sure. So the creators really wanted, what was the director's name again? Let me make sure I get this right. I'm sorry. Julius Avery was going for like a father-son pitch with Stallone, like was really going through the whole Joe-son thing. I even thought maybe they were trying to go for like Terminator 2. None of that works. I feel like it's like a bad knockoff of like one of those Crow movies with all like the street level crime, the street level darkness and all that. But there's nothing really interesting about it, or there's nothing really sort of goth, or it's just, I don't know, just Sam's just an irritating little kid who looks up to this guy who's kind of a jerk, and he doesn't really go full on anti-hero either. There's not a lot of action. I don't know. I thought the movie was just not very good at all. Not something I can recommend. I mean, you have Amazon Prime. It's free. I don't think it's really offensive at all. I think it probably is TV 14 or 16. I don't even know how they rate stuff like that on direct streaming. It's not rated R or anything like that. It's like a film that doesn't have a lot of identity. I hated all this costuming with Nemesis and Samaritan being completely covered like this. Kind of like a weird G.I. Joe foot soldier or something. Or it's just like, I don't know. A very bland film, not one I can recommend. Didn't really have any positives that I can hang my hat on, really. Like, I mean, Cyrus' character was fine. I think that actor did an okay job. The special effects scene when Sylvester Stallone's character is healing himself, snapping into place, that was all right. But so what? Stranger Things did it better. Anyway, that's my general review. I wish I could give you better news. I wish I could tell you something positive, but didn't really have it. Didn't really have it for this. Didn't really work for me. So I mentioned Stranger Things. Let's go out on Stranger Things. Tell me what you think. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you like Samaritan. Tell me why. Maybe you think I should read the comic book. Tell me why. Or send me one, because I don't have it. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. So go out on little Stranger Things and go to the next review, next show.